Next question is another trinomial that we're going to factor. So it's x squared minus 7x plus 12. This time the last number is positive 12. So I need to find two numbers. When I multiply, their product is positive 12. But when I add them up, their sum must be a negative 7. So those two numbers that I'm looking for is negative 3 and negative 4. When I multiply them, they give me a 12. And when I add them up, they give me a negative 7. So one factor must be x minus 3, and the other factor must be x minus 4. So we're going to choose A, and we will input that one factor is, the order is not important. You can put x minus 3 first, or you can put x minus 4 first. It doesn't matter. The order is not important as long as you get both factors correctly. For the second question here, question 18, next question 18, question 8, we have a similar factor. We are going to factor x squared minus 6x minus 27. Again, I will look at the last number, negative 27. I need to find two numbers. When I multiply them, it's negative 27. But when I add them up, their sum must be negative 6. So I'm thinking about using negative 9 and positive 3, because when I multiply them, the product is negative 27. And when I add them up, the sum is negative 6. So one factor will be x minus 9, and the other factor will be x plus 3. So we're going to choose A, and we will tell them one factor we need is x minus 9, and the other factor I need is x plus 3. So for the next question that I need to factor, they gave me 3x cubed minus 12x. So this question doesn't look like a perfect square trinomial. It doesn't even look like a trinomial. It doesn't look like a difference of two squares. So it's nothing that I know so far, but I'm going to use GCF, greatest common factor. So whenever we have a factoring problem, always our first approach should be, do they have anything in common that I can take it out and make the question simpler? In this case, 3 and 12, I can divide both of them by 3 without the remainder. X cubed and x, their common factor is just x. So 3x is a common factor for both of these terms. Now what is left is this one still needs an x squared, because when you multiply the 3x and x squared, that gives me a 3x cubed. And then for the second one, I will need a 4, because 3x times 4 is 12x. So we know that 3x is a common factor. And now we need to work on x squared minus 4. Now we have studied x squared minus 4 before. This is x to the second power, and this is 2 to the second power. And we have a special formula to factor problems like this. The factors will be x plus 2 and x minus 2, because this is what we learned when we were covering difference of two squares. So for this question, I tell them that first, 3x is the common factor. And then I used the difference of two squares, and I got this x plus 2 and x minus 2 as the other factors I need in this problem. Next question says in the problem that this is difference of two squares, so factor accordingly. So since they gave me a clue, factor the difference of two squares, I'm just going to write the problem first, 16x squared minus 49. So I'm going to think, what is the base number for this? And I know that this is 4 to the second power, and I know that this is x to the second power. So this whole thing is 4x to the second power. 49 is 7 to the second power. So the base numbers I need is 4x and 7. So when I'm factoring this, if I apply the difference of two squares formula, I need 4x plus 7, and I need 4x minus 7 as my two factors. So we're going to choose A. One factor will be 4x plus 7, and the other factor will be 4x minus 7. Now, they're telling me that the next question I have is a perfect square trinomial. So if you write the question, it is 25 x squared plus 10x plus 1. So if this is a perfect square trinomial, this must be something to the second power. So I know that it is 5x to the second power. And then this is 1 to the second power. Let's just verify that this is a perfect square trinomial. To verify it, when I multiply 5x and 1, which is a 5x, and then times them by 2, that makes 10x. If that's in the middle, we know that this is a perfect square trinomial. So the factors will be 5x. I need a plus sign, 1 to the second power. So this is how we factor the perfect square trinomials. So we will tell them that I apply the formula for perfect square trinomials, and the answer I'm looking here is 5x plus 1 to the second power. Next one, we are going to factor x squared plus 9x plus 13. This is an easy one. I just need to focus on the last number. I know that if I multiply positive 2 and positive 7, their product is 14. And when I add them up, their sum is 9. So one factor will be x plus 2, and the other factor will be x plus 7. So x plus 2 and x plus 7 is what I'm looking here. And this is how I am going to do this question. Now, starting this one, we're getting a number in front of x squared. So 6x squared plus 7x plus 1. I can no longer focus on the last number and try to break it down and see what numbers will be multiplied to 1 and their sum will be 7. That method will not work anymore because of the 6 in front of the x squared. So this will be the harder version of the trinomials. We're going to do something called trial method. So we're going to do try and error method. So here's how I am going to do it. The first guy, 6x squared, I can break it down as 2x and 3x. If I multiply them, it is a 6x squared. Now the last number is positive 1. So the only options for positive 1 is 1 times 1 is positive 1. And they both have to be a positive number. So when I multiply them, it's a positive 1. Now, I still don't know if I did the math right. So we're going to do butterfly method. So if I multiply these two, their product is 2x. If I multiply these two, their product is 3x. And when I combine them, it's a 5x. But that's not what I have in the middle. I have a 7x in the middle. Therefore, this combination is not going to work. So therefore, this is called trial method. Try and see if it works, or if it doesn't work, go take another path. So if this didn't work, let's see what else can I do here. Since 2x times 3x is 6x, but it didn't work, I want to break it down differently. I know that I can also break it down as 6x and 1x. When I multiply them, their product is still 6x squared. Last number is 1, so the only option for 1 is 1 times 1. And I want to keep them both positive. Now I'm going to check if this might work. Again, first these two. When I multiply them, it's 6x. Now these two, when I multiply them, it's just 1x. And when I add them up, the sum is 7x, which is what we have in the middle. Therefore, first factor is 6x plus 1. And the other factor is x plus 1 here that we need. So if you happen to FOIL them and organize your like terms, combine your like terms, you're going to end up with your original problem. So we will tell them that first factor we will need is 6x plus 1. And the other factor we need is x plus 1. For question 14. Now I have 3x squared plus 16x plus 16. And we need to factor this. Again, we're just going to try different combinations to find what we need. I'm going to focus with this. This is easy this time because there's only one option, 3x and 1x. When I multiply them, their product is 3x squared. There's multiple options for 16. It's 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. I just don't know which one is going to work, but I am guessing that I want to start with 4 times 4. I want to keep them both positive, so when I multiply them, the result is a positive 16. Now, most critical part, are we going to be able to find 16x when we combine these? So multiply these two first. 3x times 4 is a 12x. And then multiply 4 and x, which is a 4x. And when you add them up, the sum is 16x, which is in the middle. That means here, first factor will be 3x plus 4. And the other factor must be x plus 4. And then I can check my answer. It will be correct. Final question on this assignment is another one like this. It's given to me 3x squared, 5x minus 12. Okay. Again, I start with this. I can break it down as 3x and 1x. So when I multiply them, that's 3x squared. The last number is negative 12. So since it's a negative number this time, one of the factor will be positive, the other factor will be negative. There are multiple options. I can use 1 times 12. I can do 2 times 6. I can do 3 times 4. I just don't know which one is going to work. Or I can do 6 times 2. I want to give it a start by 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. One of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative, but when I combine them, the middle term is positive. So I'm going to make this a positive and make this a negative. So when I multiply them, I still have a negative 12. But let's check now. These two, when I combine them, it's a positive 9x. These two, when I combine them, it's a negative 4x. And the final product, final result is positive 5x in the middle. So one factor I need is 3x minus 4. And then the other factor I need is x plus 3. This is the end of this assignment, factoring practice.